Hey everybody, what's new? Today I get to start my YouTube build of my 1958 Biscayne that my uncle gave me. Today we got to work on the carburetor. Apparently this thing only runs off 4 cylinders. And all my V8 guys tell me that these carburetors, after they sit for 1, 2, 48, 300 years, they get dried up and all the seals don't work and they don't work anymore, they need to be rebuilt. So that's today's job. I'm going to rebuild the carb, see if I can get to run on all 8s, then I can start checking other healthy things of the motor and stuff. So that's what I'm about to do. The funny thing was is that I went down to my local parts store and went to order the carburetor kit. And to order one of these kits, you have to go by the number. It's down here on the side of the carb. Write that number down, take it to your parts store. They'll look it up and they'll get you the parts kit for it. It should be easy. But my parts store, I went down there, haven't seen him in like 3 months because of quarantine. He was like, "What's up?" And I said, "Not much. I got a new project." And he's like, "Really? What is it?" And I said, "Well, it's got a carburetor." And he looked at me, "A carburetor?" He says, "What'd you get yourself into?" I said, "Well, I got a 1958 Biscayne given to me." He goes, "Really?" He says, "Well, I think we can help you. We are a parts store. Lots of carburetor parts here." And I'm like, "All right." I said, "Well, I have a number for you." And he goes, "Good." So I give him the number. He looks it up on his computer, climbs up a shelf, and brings me down the carburetor kit. And he looks at me and goes, "This is the only one I got. This should fit. It should work." He says, "If it doesn't, bring it back and I'll exchange it." Then he starts opening up and going through all the little baggies and stuff. And he looks at me and he goes, "We're tuner guys." And he looks at me and goes, "Does any of this stuff make sense to you?" And I'm like, "Not a clue." He goes, "Me neither." He says, "Well, I ain't going to give you any help." But apparently I had a little instruction paper with it, so it can't be that bad. He says, and my buddies say, that once I rebuild 2 or 3 of these, I can do it with my eyes shut. They're way easier than what I do. I don't know. I got solder on an EEPROM chip. That takes like no effort at all. This thing is full of little screws and springs and stuff like that. We'll see. I searched, I hunted, and I got about 3 of these old Rochester carbs. I tried all 3 of them and they all were not good. I have one Holly carb that I was told it was actually no good. It was wasting my time. Don't worry about it. Once I get good at this V8 stuff, maybe I'll do the Holly carb, get a Holly intake, and get all fancy with it. But for now, I'm going to get this Rochester going. What it was doing when we did start it up, and we did drive it, was when I cranked it over, it would spit fuel out the top of the carburetor, and the side of the carburetor, and all around the carburetor on top of the motor. More fuel went in on the outside of the carburetor than it went in the carburetor, which was weird because there was still fuel pouring out of the exhaust. I had the fuel line coming out of a jerry can, and I used up the entire jerry can just trying to get it from over there to here. So it's not very good on gas right now, which is probably has to do with it trying to move on 4 cylinders. So I'm going to take this one apart, this carb apart, and probably take the other carbs apart because he wants me to rebuild one for his tea bucket so that he has a running carb. So I'll practice on mine, get it running, and then when I learn, then I'll build another carb for this one and I'll just give him this carb because his tea bucket, it's not going to be a road legal car. This is, and you run as efficiently as possible. So here it is. Here's the carb. I don't know if you can see right there is the number. There you go. There's the number you need. Take that number into the parts store and they should be able to give you an idea of what it is. I found out that this particular carb came off a late 70s-ish Corvette, actually. So I doubt the motor came from the Corvette. But it's a 350, it's pretty much the same. Will it be drive as fast as a Corvette? Not likely. The kit that I bought was about $50, $60. I could have bought an Edelbrock kit for about $150 to give it a little bit more horsepower, but like I said, let me get good at V8s before I get fast at V8s. Obviously this thing is not going down the quarter mile. I have other toys for that. Alright, down in my basement, lighting's not great, but this is where I'm going to tear apart the carburetor. Now first thing I want to do is get the float out, because everyone says I need to replace the float, so I want to get the float out, take it with me to the parts store tomorrow morning, compare it, make sure I'm getting the right float. Alright. So I was going to film and discuss every little detail of the card rebuild from start to finish, but I decided to just do a quick time lapse for two reasons. One, I don't really have an idea of what I'm doing, so I don't really want to steer anyone in the wrong direction with incorrect info. In fact, as I was learning, the info I got from the internet was incorrect. So please enjoy my content, but don't take it seriously. I'm not a pro. Also, if I filmed it and released it in real time, it would have been about 5 hours long. Just take your time, do your research. I've learned a lot about rebuilding carbs, and I've just started. And here is the float, now off to the parts store. Alright, got my new float, and I continue tearing this thing apart. Alright, so now we get to clean off. I'm going to use the carb spray, carb cleaner. I'm also going to use brake cleaner because I do find it works better. I'll use the brake cleaner first for the more pressure, then I'll wash with the carb cleaner just because it's a carburetor, it's carb. And now I get to put it all back together. Hopefully, it'll work again. So how about a joke? So a man walks into a bar. He orders 3 beer. His waitress brings him over his 3 beers, and he takes a sip out of the first beer, the second beer, and then the third beer. And then goes back to the first beer, second beer, and the third beer, and continues to drink all 3 beers simultaneously until they're finished. And then he calls the waitress over and orders 3 more beer. So the waitress questions his situation and asked, why are you drinking 3 beers at a time instead of just drinking one and enjoying it? Well, the man said that him and his 2 brothers just moved away from home. So they decided that when they left that they would order 3 beers and have a beer with each other every Thursday night, because they may not see each other ever again. They're getting on in age. So the waitress thought that was quite nice and went back and brought 3 more beers on the house. Well, this went on, and every Thursday the man would show up and order 3 beers and have 3 beers with his 2 brothers. Several years went by and he became quite known well in the bar. Until one Thursday, he showed up at the bar and he only ordered 2 beers. There was a hush along the entire bar. Everyone kind of knew. So the owner of the bar himself walked over to the man with 2 beers and said, "My condolences to your brother." The man said, "What are you talking about?" He says, "Well, every Thursday you come in here and order 3 beers to have with your other 2 brothers. But today you only ordered 2 beers, so something must have happened to one of your brothers?" He said, "Oh no." He said, "My wife made me quit drinking, but my 2 brothers don't have to quit." All right. Now to put the carb. That's a train. Now to put the carb on the car. Tell ya, working on little imports, a lot easier to get at the motor. Of course, a 12mm won't work. These stupid hoods. Is 1/2. I'm gonna put tennis balls here. Now we should be ready to go. Rake is gonna kill me. hook up the battery, fire it over and see what happens. Okay, it's getting fuel. So far it's good. I think it's firing on all. Sounds much better than it did. Not leaking fuel. Hopefully it won't leak fuel. A little bit of smoke burning off the headers. Probably the best it's ever ran. There is fuel leaking there. I don't know why. Woo! Still smoking a bit. Might need new valve springs. Alright, so it clearly has way too much smoke to be putting in the garage, unfortunately, to work on it. So I'm going to have to rethink this idea. I think I'm going to have to get a V8 guy over to maybe we'll do a compression test. I might need new valve seals. I don't even know if I can do that with it sitting here. Might need new rings, but it runs. Still sounds like it's missing a cylinder though. I'll update you more when I figure out what's going on with it. After maybe I'll make a video of my V8 buddy here looking at it. He'll be able to tell me what's next. Obviously I might end up having to tear down the heads, but for now, carburetor's built. It's only one spot that seems to be leaking fuel, and that seems to be the spot that goes into the breather for the PCV valve onto the valve cover. I'm gonna ask about that too. I'm hoping some carburetor guy will be like, oh yeah, you forgot that seal, or that's wrong, or whatever. But it seems to be running all right. It's not tuned. I don't think I can hook my laptop up to it to tune it, but it is running. And there's no mosquitoes on my entire block anymore. So, I guess I'll update you in a week or two, or a couple days, or whatever. After this, I gotta go camping in a couple days, so we're getting ready to go camping for a week. And then after camping, I got another race, and the Talon's not running very well, so I got to deal with that too. But I need to get this in the garage because it's out here in the rain and it's getting wet on the inside. I got to get it covered, if not a tarp. So like and subscribe if you want to see more of my videos and see more of this build, and you'll see me later.